Well, the new gang legislation came into effect from midnight. And already it netted its first member 3 minutes after the witching hour. A mongrel mob member based in Hawke's Bay, in fact, in my hometown of Hastings, was arrested for displaying a large mob sign on the dashboard of his car. He was issued a summons to appear in court and the sign was taken off him. So the legislation prohibits the display of gang insignia in public, although they can wear it at home or in their car. It also allows police to order gang members in public to disperse, meaning if 3 or more gang members are believed to be unreasonably disrupting the activities of the public, police can order them not to hang out in public for 7 days, as well as apply for a court order banning association and communication between specified offenders for 3 years. The law does not ban gang tattoos. Gang membership will also be an aggravating factor at sentencing. A person convicted for publicly displaying gang insignia will be liable for up to 6 months imprisonment or a fine of up to $5,000. A person breaching a dispersal notice faces the same consequences. And breaching a non-consorting order can result in up to 5 years behind bars and a fine of $15,000. Now, some argue this legislation was unnecessary. Others questioned its legality and enforceability. Long-term mongrel mob member Ching Poi Poi says some gang members will fight and die to stop police confiscating their patches. He says the new patch laws risk jeopardising positive relationships between police and gang members in their communities. Assistant Police Commissioner Paul Basham says he, though, is confident their framework of risk and confrontation will help them successfully navigate the enforcement of the laws. As I said, some have questioned the legality of this. The Law Society says police need to treat carefully. So joining me now to kind of walk us through what that does mean is criminal defence lawyer Marie Dyhrberg. Marie, good afternoon.
There, good afternoon.
Wow, I've got to say cute, a KC. Sorry, Marie Dyhrberg, KC.
That's
very important.
No problem. Yes.
Hey, you've got it. I've got to say it. Where are the problems that you see, Marie, in this passing of the law regarding gang insignia?
All of what you've said. I mean, we just simply look at this and say, look, what is so different? We've tried all this stuff before. We've, put things in place, legislation that is supposed to break up gangs, and suddenly they become single people, no threats at all, no group affiliation, nothing whatsoever, and it's just a pipe dream. Because what really any of this legislation that's gone on before and is going on here is it does not look at what is going to dissipate the reasons people join gangs. And that's your real issue in society for us. And this is not just a softy, liberal, treat everybody with kid gloves, and that's fine.
Sounds a bit soft, Marie.
Pardon?
It does sound a bit softy, because the public don't care about that. They do?
No, some of the public don't care about that. Some of the public just say, oh, yes, hardline, this is going to sort it out, throw them all away in prisons.
Yes.
Those of us who work within the system, and I am throwing that out, those of us who have spent years understanding what works and what doesn't work, and why do people gravitate to gangs, it's a very complex situation, but it comes right down to people being isolated, people being abused throughout their lives, having no sense of belonging, and the normal people in society will see somebody who looks like a gang member, and so they'll turn away. They'll run. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen time and time again.
But Marie, all gang members can't have been isolated and abused. I mean, they get into it because
most of them have.
Well, they also get into it because they get money, and they get mana they think is mana, and they have a group around them, and they thrive on that intimidation that they give the public.
That is perhaps the motivation for some for some, might go there. And you see, this is the problem. You've also got to identify what does this particular organisation or gang represent? Is this a really sort of high-powered, is this a very clever money-making organisation, and therefore set them apart? Is this a group of people who wear their gang patches? Often they're in small communities, and they have family members who are police. They are sort of in gangs, and it's that intergenerational, it's that whole whānau thing. But when you really drive down to a lot of these membership figures, they're nonsense. They often have lots of dead people on their lists. If you really drive down as to what makes somebody go towards gang, is because there they have a membership, they belong, and they are definitely isolated from society. And of course, within that, you have your alcohol and drug program, addictions, no programs for those people. You have someone who has been brought up in a violent environment. Violence doesn't mean anything, for young people. They're inured to all of that by that time. We know that the way to change society, to make crime rates really meaningfully drop, is that you have the treatment programs for alcohol and drugs, education, employment, welfare, all of those matters. And funnily enough, Rob Muldoon proved that. He got out amongst the gangs. He's the only successful politician who has. He gave them accommodation. He gave them work projects. And they succeeded. So you can't take that away. That was a very visible proof that hardline is not going to work. You just simply can't arrest your way out of the problem.
Marie, sorry, Marie, I just need to jump in because my texts are going nuts. And and I actually like what this text says, because I agree. Whilst I agree with Marie that we want to stop people getting into gangs, that is realistically a generational change. In the meantime, we have these complete munters going around causing mayhem for general society, and I think we are all sick of it. Nice theory, but practically it's lots of us that just want these people locked in a cage. And Marie, that's what I was saying. You're not wrong about, yes, it's intergenerational. Yes, a lot of them were abused or isolated. But a lot of people that were abused and isolated don't all go to gangs. And people are sick of what they are seeing, Marie. So what you were saying is a very long process to get there. What do we do in the meantime?
Course. Short term, middle term, long term. Anybody who has any real intelligence and understanding says, this is your long-term project, this is what we'll do. Short-term, this is what we'll do, and along the way, in the medium, that is what we'll do. And what is the mayhem? We are not like they are in Australia. Now, in Western Australia and in Queensland, introduced really tough, and we've got the research, we've got the studies. All they did in Queensland was relocate. And one example is they went to Canberra, never, ever had gang issues, never had gang violence at all. And what that transferred in Australia, because they are very different, they have different reasons for gangs over there, and all you did was increase the crime in a city that had never had crime before, and the real crime wasn't properly identified. We have a lot of our gangs who can't relocate, but what they have is that they have the sense of belonging. They are linked a lot to each other, and that is what New Zealand gangs are all about. They're not like Australia. When you look at, say, the United States and the United Kingdom, their legislation responds to specific activities and conduct, particularly organised crime. You don't see the mayhem that people are saying there's mayhem out in the streets. That is nonsense. It is not happening out there. But target the organised crime.
Marie, sorry, you think the gangs don't cause any mayhem here in New Zealand? What about pushing all the drugs, and what about thefts? What about intimidation? What about when there's a tangi and they shut down the roads? And I mean,
And what about the other side? When they have a tangi, they liaise with the police and the people in the community where the tangi is, say they're respectful, they're police and all the rest. They get a bad rap, but where is the actual evidence for that? It is not there, and you have people who are committing crime who are not associated with gangs. You've got to look at why are we getting the crime rate, it's increasing, and hard line does not work. What will work is get to the bottom of the mental health, get to the bottom of the drug and alcohol addiction, get into education, get into welfare, and get into employment. And when that is in place, like we had the PIPS program back in, when I was out at Otahu in particular, out in the 80s, none of the kids were out there offending. They all turned up to these classes. That is what's going to help them, because these are your neighbours and you've got to fix them. But to just simply say they're out there, mayhem and all the rest of it, no, the evidence doesn't say that. The charges don't say that. And it's just, as I say, a bad rap.